Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning into Mumbai Angels Network's Reboot, Navigating the New Normal session. Before we begin, I have one request to please mute your devices. This will help us hear the speakers clearly and participate better in the discussion. We at Mumbai Angels Network have always believed in leading from the front and present a seven-part series discussing key aspects of the issues currently impacting the startup ecosystem and how we, collectively, can take steps to overcome them. The session is divided into 40 minutes of panel discussion and 20 minutes of Q&A. My request to participants is to please send in your questions to us during the chat. Our team will curate them and we will try our best to get them answered by our esteemed panelists. The session for today focuses on to fold or to wait challenges of a startup, where startup founders will talk about the challenges that they are facing in managing their businesses during crises and the right time to take hard decisions. The panelists for today are Nakul Kumar, co-founder and COO, Cashify. Nakul has 11 years of experience in the field of innovation and has also started India's first recycling brand. He co-founded Cashify in 2013, which is an online platform that makes selling old electronic devices a simple affair by helping customers with price discovery and cash in hand with the least amount of effort. The next panelist for today is Tarun Sharma, co-founder McAfee. Tarun has his feet firmly set in today's competitive environment, which is evident by the fact that he has spearheaded three successful organizations, including Boxate, Emphasis, and now McAfee. Tarun's excellence in every field speaks volumes of how he has scripted the evolution of the startups he led and helped draw a linear outline of brands he has shared his work with. The session for today will be chaired by Mr. Sridhar Ralabandi, mentor investor in the startup space and advisor to NBFCs. Sridhar, a former banker, has over 33 years of experience across several banking functions such as treasury, IT, operations, risk, and governance. He is a former president and chief risk officer of Lakshmi Vilas Bank and has held several senior positions at Axis Bank during his two-decade-long career with them. I would also like to thank our panelists for their time and consideration for this session and for giving us and the audience this opportunity to hear their insights. Another quick reminder for all participants to have their microphones muted and to share their questions via chat. So without taking too much time, hand over the session to Sridhar. Over to you, sir.
Thanks, Shivangi. Hi, everyone. So we have our task cut out. We are in tough times. Everyone knows what we are going through today. Two things strike me as a little unusual in the current situation. Everyone talks about preparing for risks. A pandemic risk is something that no one really thought about. And a pandemic risk that can shut down complete countries and keep people under lockdown was something that no one thought about. Though, of course, from a business model perspective, we do have digital business models that are running out there, but there's also a huge part of the economy that's actually not digital today as we speak. So that is one part. The second part, of course, is, to my mind, the surprise that what happened in China was something people knew from Jan definitely, February definitely. So how were we preparing for this? One example of underpreparedness, if I can say, is when we find governments do not have testing kits. So it's as stark as that. So when COVID visits India, we find that we are locked down and we are really in a bad shape today. So therefore, this topic that we are dealing with, what should startups be doing, the challenges, should they shut down or should they be doing, right, is the topic for today. As we speak, we've gone through 3 weeks of shutdown. It's not as if every business has been shut down. People have managed to do some business. And digital businesses, to some extent, have worked reasonably well. But over a period of time, people have adapted. We found how people have begun using big baskets or Flipkarts, even large FMCG sort of companies trying to use them to the maximum extent. So much so that Big Basket, if you try and book something, they say we are full up, so try again. So that is the kind of, it speaks of the adaptation, no doubt, but it also calls out the under capacity in the sort of e-marketplace in terms of maybe the deliveries, such things. So I'm happy that we have two experienced panelists here, and Shivangi, you have introduced them. What I like about the panelists today is the fact that they are running these businesses for some time. They have experience of running the startups. They've also successfully raised money. So the pressure of investors is something that I'm sure they can talk a little bit about. And given the size of the business, I think a lot of things that we hear people are trying to practice to sort of dull the blow, sort of try to figure out how best to face up to the situation is something that we can hear from them. So we will take some questions, but maybe we will also pick out certain topics which I'll sort of introduce, and then I will invite Nakul and Tarun to sort of put in their thoughts. And then we will go to the next topic. We will take about 4 or 5 topics which we will talk about, and then after the scheduled time, the Q&A will open. That would cover those or some other topics, right? So the first one that I wanted to pick out was, okay, do we see some segments as clearly negative segments? I'm not necessarily talking about COVID, though COVID is the immediate reality. I'm not necessarily talking about COVID, but if there is some big event of this nature, what might be the negative segments? And do we say that online segments are definitely the best, and therefore, that is the preference? Or are we going to be able to say that, okay, in the short term, maybe for a 3-month kind of a period, the online segment is a good segment, but if you were to really look at a slightly longer term, businesses can adapt, and maybe we can see some bright spots elsewhere as well. So that is the first one. If both of you can
Tarun, would you like to go first?
Respond to that.
Take a shot at it.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys, for inviting, and glad to see a lot of people joining in. And certainly it's a very tough time, and the topic of the webinar is something which is very striking to fold of weight. I'm not sure whether it's a binary situation right now. And I personally don't come from that school of thought. So to answer Sridhar's question, certainly online has is at a better place compared to a lot of people. Real estate, hospitality, aviation. I mean, it's not gonna go in the way it got dropped. It's not gonna come back to the same pace, because people will have a certain psychological. This thing will have a certain psychological impact on the people. See China videos of people entering the airport and going out of the airport. The whole duration is not a 45 minutes time right now. It's a 2 hours thing. So definitely how we fly is something which will be impacted. How we stay is something which will be impacted. So hence hospitality, aviation, travel, real estate will get affected. Online, on the other hand, will definitely have a better position. But the online construct, there are a lot of people who are getting affected. So for example, apparel is something which is not gonna see an uptick for the next quarter or so. And these businesses are primarily on the cash flow. They operate on the cash flow model, right? So whether they will survive even 6 months or not, I'm not sure, right? Online will certainly have a certain upper hand in managing COVID. But post-COVID, I think we are closely looking at China, and there are some very interesting things happening. So, for example, automobile is something which is rising in China, right? So people are skipping the public transport route and choosing more cars, and that's what yesterday's news was filled with. And I'm sure used car segment will also be at a boom. I'm not sure about the used mobile thing, which Nakul can touch upon. But certainly there will be a lot of sectors which will positively get affected after COVID, primarily because of the change in consumption behavior. Trust and scarcity are the two factors where people will want to bet on, and that's where a lot of new segments would come. But certainly there are some sectors which will tremendously be at a hit post-COVID as well.
Nakul, what's your take on this?
I think there are 2 points to it. While Tarun is absolutely right. In the short term, aviation, hospitality are just screwed. There is no way to say that. And just for me, short term is 1 year, and the longer term could be about 3 years, because it depends on how affected we are as a country. Right now, it's about 12,000 affected people, 300 deaths. But if it reaches to something like a 50,000 deaths and 10 lakh affected, uh, then people are not going to travel for a long time. So, and for them to survive, which is a very high capital intensive area, is again a tough thing to discuss. So, I don't know what will happen to those sectors. But what we are trying to look at uh, is how consumer behavior is changing with the coming times. So, do we see that, hey, consumer will stop going to malls? Will that happen? Will they stop visiting restaurants? That will happen? I don't think so. In the short term, they would, but in the longer term, they won't. But for example, restaurants will have to be more careful about sanitization. People will start caring more about those kind of aspects, which in India they wouldn't. So, as businesses or entrepreneurs, we would need to figure out what our consumers' pain point now, we were dealing with earlier, and how they have changed over the next 2-3 months, and make sure that we consider that, because this is once in a lifetime kind of a time where consumer behavior is going to change so fast. Otherwise, consumer behavior takes 4-5 years to change. um, the Flipkarts and Amazon have been working over a decade now, trying to figure out how to help people buy online. And now COVID is just hasten that acceleration in a month. So we will see a lot of consumer behavior change. While talking about used cars or used phones, while we will certainly see an uptick because of the pent up demand, because people are not able to buy them for last 1 month. But I don't think that's going to last for a long term, because used phones, cars are a ecosystem play. If you don't sell new cars or new phones, then the old cars and phones don't come back to the ecosystem. So if there are lack of new sales of phones or cars, then there is lack of supply in the used phone ecosystem, and hence uh, and both used car and phones have always been a very strong market in India because of the price sensitivity.
Yeah.
So I'm just hoping that new cars and new phones don't get affected. Uh, the major challenge there is also the supply chain, which is coming from China. While the media portrays that the supply chain are back, it's not true, because again,
Mm.
China is not isolated from global effects. While they control manufacturing, but their supply chain is also global. So maybe their screws are coming from Vietnam, maybe some smaller technology, maybe their processors are coming from Taiwan. So till a global, stability is there, uh, this 100% manufacturing supply chain is not back, which would result in constraint in supply across the world, including India. So we'll have to wait and watch. But what is important to look at consumer behavior, how it's going to change.
Right. So we can move to the next question.
Yeah, before we go there, when we talk about the sectors which are impacted, we typically look at the digital and non-digital. But one of the things that stands out this time is the importance that edtech and health sector sort of those are getting. Health is not entirely digital, but then edtech has taken off significantly because of the digital nature of the delivery now, right? The production and the delivery.
Right. So
Yeah.
if we can look at some of these aspects from a general startup 360-degree overview, if we can look at what are the factors that would determine what are the decisions that a startup would take, what are the 3 or 4 key parameters, how you would evaluate a business, saying that if these factors are met, then we can look at tiding over COVID. And if these 3 or 4 factors are not set right, including runway, cash flows, say your entire business model or your target audience, if it is not in the right place at the right time, then what is your advice to these startups?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, right? So, what exactly do we expect? I think the good startups, the startups that have survived or that are surviving or that are making the transition, that are coming out on the tops, what are the good things they must be doing? Can we say there are certain do's and certain don'ts? Can we talk about that?
Sure, sure. Should I
Yeah.
go first?
Yeah, sure.
You go first, Tarun, and then
Okay,
maybe
wonderful. Right. So there are two parts to surviving this, in my opinion. One is obviously the capital, the financial capital, right? The money in the bank. And second is the human capital. I think when we look at an MIS and a balance sheet, we tend to look at how many crores, how many months, whether I will survive or not. I mean, it is not a function of just that balance sheet. It is a function of your human capital as well. So I'm going to divide it into two parts. So keeping the first in picture, I mean, the capital in bank, right? It has been said so many times in multiple articles. I'm going to probably reiterate the same. Keep the cash as close to you as possible. I mean,
Chalo.
imagine a situation where it is a shock. It is a shock to your entire system. Somebody has punched it so hard that you would want to have more people absorbing the shock. It's just cannot be one company, one segment absorbing the entire shock. I mean, it is a humanitarian crisis for all practical purposes. So as a company, if you have like 10 verticals, 200 vendors, this shock needs to be absorbed by everyone. That's the fundamental premise of it. You cannot have a differential approach there. You cannot die and say my vendors will last forever. I mean, if you die, their future business goes out of the park. Collectively, you need to manage this chaos, and hence there has to be a clear strategy which is customizable based on your business needs, your business functioning. You need the ultra rule is, if you have cash for 6 months, extend it to 10 months. If you have cash for 12 months, extend it to 14, 15 months. Fundamentally, figure out a way. I mean, if somebody puts out you in a jungle, you don't know what you will encounter to. This situation is better off. You are a bit certain of cash in the bank, and if you're a bit certain of the vendors you are interacting with, the team players you're interacting with. So hence, absorb the shock by having as many as people. Maintain relationship, survive, extend the cash. That's one of the things which we have been following from 15th March. We have been reiterating with all our partners. We are taking care of them. At the same time, we are making sure that everybody is absorbing the shock. The second part to it is human capital. For a business like us, we are very hopeful for the recovery. If it is 6 months, 9 months, I don't know, but recovery will happen. People will take a bath, and then people will use a shampoo. The people will use a face wash, and we have a certain level of trust, and hence the branded consumption will also go up. We should be the beneficiaries. That's the premise. Wherever the recovery happens, the only thing which will ensure you are running ahead of the race or you are running on the top list of the race is your human capital. Make sure we all preserve our human capital. We at MCaffeine are taking a lot of steps. We have not cut down any salary on March. In April, we are releasing early salaries. We are organizing midweek stand-up gigs, music gigs, to give them some comfort, because this is a mentally taxing time. We are organizing some psychologist session for the entire team. We are making sure that we don't call on audio, we call on video to understand what kind of state they are in. We are making sure that the load is not something which they are load is something which is manageable, not something which we are really finicky about getting things done on time. This is a time to be relaxed. Hence, we are making sure that our human capital survives this. Our human capital is well equipped, stronger, better whenever the recovery happens, because this thing will ensure we are running the race from the front at the maximum pace possible. So we are taking immense some amount of measures on this front. On the first front, we are extremely cautious. There's a fine line between stupidity and bravery. We are just trying to be on the righter side of bravery, not being stupid and taking stupid calls. And that has been our approach. And I've been talking to a lot of people, which includes rent and labor, which includes a lot of things on the partner end. On the team front, we are making sure that we absorb everyone. We don't do any layoffs. And we make sure they become stronger and better with respect to their skill sets, their handling things, etc., etc. And whenever recovery happens, we should be the first ones to grab it. And hence, we are making sure that on the second part we are vigilant and
That's quite great
proactive.
to hear,
So these
Arun. Nakul, what's your take on this?
Yeah, so pretty much what Tarun said, right? That survive. I think this is the time to survive, and because there is a bigger fight or a war which will happen after 6 months, where maybe some of your competition would have died, and the market may become easier. There will be more demand. So for us as startups, is right now survival. But what I want to say is that there is no certain guidelines, set rules for any startup. You have to do what you know is your strength and weaknesses, right? For example, if for Tarun it works not to fire and not to do salary cuts, that's great for him. But if that doesn't work for you, don't feel awkward or pressured in taking the tough decisions. If you can, so for example, we are 900 people, right? If I can lay off about 50 people to save 850 people, then I would do that.
Yeah.
And right now we have taken pay cuts all across the company, from senior management, which is up to 50-60%, to low level, which have taken no pay cut because we don't feel that they can live a sustainable life with the pay cut. So we have to be understanding of what the strength of your organization is, and which is the best way to survive. And you can attend all kind of webinars, and everybody would have their own take. But everybody here is an entrepreneur and is smart enough to figure it out what works for them. I'm just saying, don't get into a pressure situation where, hey, the society is saying this and I should follow that. Do what's best for you instead of falling into some kind of category.
Good. I think so. Survival is the key. I think it comes from both of you. I think the situation also would depend on the kind of cash that you are sitting on. If you raise some money recently, possibly you are in a better situation. If
Right.
you are due to raise capital, let's say after 6 months or 3 months, you are in a real tight situation. So I think it's completely situational. One of the related questions is, does it make sense for a company to say that, okay, for 3 months I'm off and I come back after 3 months? Where would that work?
Sorry, I did not understand your question.
I'm a running company, but I'm in a tight situation, right? My business is not, my top line is not really there. I may have some money in the bank, but it may not last for a long time. So is it all right to say that I'm off for 3 months and then I come back?
Yeah, you have no other option. If we had another option, we would take that, right? But there is no business. For example, we at Cashify do about 50 CR of revenue every month, and we are at zero right now. And I don't have an option. So what we are doing is instead working on training sessions with the team, some of the product development which we are doing. I am in and out of customer calls. So our customers are second-hand phone retailers. I am talking to 5 retailers every day, spending 1 hour with them, understanding their problem, what products we can build for them, how we can increase their revenue. And right now they have all the time to talk to us. So I'm utilizing that time. My team is working on, for example, we wanted to overhaul our ERP system for a long time and could not. And like, this is the perfect time for doing that, because there is no transaction. So ERP data can be easily shifted, new barcodes can be implemented. So we're trying to put a positive spin to all those things, and making sure that while the revenue is zero, but productivity is still high.
Yeah, that's a good idea. You're using it productively. It's not that you are shut in that sense, but then you're doing something very useful. So,
Your view on that, Tarun?
yeah.
different views?
Sorry.
Any different views on the subject?
No. So, as Nakul said, whatever it takes to survive, right? I mean, if it takes to survive by shutting down shop, imagine a shop, and there is a flood for 3 months. What would you do? You just shut down the shop. You'll survive, right? You need to survive personally, and then as a business as well. If your shop's still there after 3 months, you're ready to do business. At the end of the day, it's survival by any means, and it is customizable. That survival philosophy or playbook is customizable to all the businesses.
Yeah.
So at this
Well
point,
said. Yeah.
I actually want to come back to my primary question. If we can provide some kind of parameters which a startup should use to benchmark themselves to decide whether they should fold or they should wait through the crisis, this would actually greatly help the audience if we can give them some parameters to go by. One is runway, like we discussed in terms of the cash in the bank and how much they can extend it. But are there any other parameters that they can use?
I think from what both Tarun and Nakul have said, one of the things is, okay, what's happening in the business? Are you able to generate any revenues? That is a useful thing to sort of, it's an important metric to determine whether you will be up and running or whether you will do some other things, not necessarily fold up, of course. And it depends very much on the point you made, how much of cash you've got and what is the runway that's available to you. I think most businesses will try to conserve that cash. As we said at the beginning, the mark of a good startup is, or any company for that matter, is have you planned for your cash sufficiently well? There's going to be volatility. This is, I think, the height of a VUCA movement, really, in terms of what we are facing today, complete uncertainty on everything. And within this, what is it that you have planned? And maybe what are the kinds of expenses that you can cut down upon? I think that will determine your survival in the short term. Well, whether short term is 3 months or 1 year, I understand the point that Tarun is making. But then if you have enough runway, then I suppose you can revisit things again. Otherwise, you are in such a pressure to manage the day-to-day things. So it becomes a completely different dimension. So do you want to say something, Nakul, maybe, and Tarun thereafter?
No, my point is they cannot be a playbook.
Right.
I remember I did on 22nd March I did a webinar I'm a Bloom portfolio, and we had a webinar for all the Bloom companies, and we were discussing operational how during this COVID time we should run operations and warehouses, because I have 5 warehouses, I have 10 sales offices. And my advice at that time was, hey, keep looking at what's happening in the news and transfer your goods, because that same evening I could see that Bombay will shut down in a couple of days. So we started moving inventory from Bombay warehouse to Calcutta warehouse and Bangalore warehouse. And I advise that to everybody, that keep moving inventory, because some of the cities will continue working, and that really didn't work for me. My half of my inventory is now in transit, stuck in various places. They have not reached their destination, and those destinations are also shut. So now I am at the risk of losing inventory midway. So my advice that time, which sounded great, now sounds foolish. So there is no right or wrong. We have not faced this earlier, right? This is also first time for us.
Correct.
Everybody is trying to figure out what is best for their business. Some things will work, some things will not. So what we should do is just keep our eyes or ears open, figure out what is best for us, and make sure. So, and the question of folding a company would really come down to, hey, you don't have money to run, you don't have an option, right? There is no other. You can't say, hey, I have 1 crore in the bank, let me just fold up and let's enjoy my 1 crore. That could also be a personal decision. But I don't think if you're an invested company that your investors will love.
Yeah.
Right. I think
You want to add to it, Tarun?
Yeah, I think it all boils down to what summarizing Nakul has put up very candidly, that a decision or an advice might have been amazing probably 2 weeks back, but it is not now, and it's gonna be true for any timeline you draw in future. Having said that, there are there are a couple of things which we are doing. One, we are building the worst business model. I mean, we were raising money. We were building that financial model, classical. Nobody factored in the corona thing in your business model or financial model.
Yeah.
Post COVID, we tried to do that, and we built the worst case scenario, and whether it leads us to survival. But when we were doing it, one of the thoughts which came to our minds was, we started from zero, right? This thing has happened once in 100 years. In the past 100 years, we are encountering this for the first time. So even if I go to X many people for advices, everybody is seeing it for the first time, right? Based on experiences, there will be nuances in advices. What will I do? The only thing real is that we started from zero. So we started from a 2 BHK flat with 2 partners and no sales, no product. Can I go back to that? Yes, I can. I mean, that's why I told the title of the whole webinar, to fold a weight. I mean, your call. You can, but if you can survive at the base, survive. I mean, it will pass. You must be talking about 4, 5, 6 years of what you have built. I mean, we have been building this for the past 4 years. And worst case scenario is we'll all come down to zero with 2 founders sitting on their chairs in the hall of a 2 BHK flat from where it started. Big deal. We can build it again, right? But that's my personal opinion. It might differ from people. People come with a different opinion. If it's a slow death, let me pull the trigger right now only. Why to suffer a slow death? Personal opinions. But my point is, you can wait. You can survive this. At the end of the day, you need to survive this. Either ways, if you're coming out from the end of the tunnel, you would be the very few who would come out, right?
Yep.
Hence, there's a lot of value there.
I think just to sort of close up this particular topic, is I think the playbook should essentially, or the good things that startups must do would be plan cash, be careful about expenses, plan well for future capital and stuff like that. And when you are faced with the situation, do the best that you must be, depending on your own situation. This is something that Nakul was saying, boss, depends on the cash that you have, right? So just a related question here is, a lot of companies have taken up a number of cost containment measures, right? It's not necessarily about cutting down salaries, but also moving away from high cost rentals to maybe low cost rentals and deferring certain things. I think a lot of those good practices will continue for some time. That one can say with confidence. When COVID passes us, I'm sure people will not forget the tough times. I'm sure they're not going to now go to the bank and blow up the money. I think that is one good thing. We have limited time for other things, but I'll just talk about a few things. One of the things that we figured out is you might be running a wonderful business. You might be producing wonderful snacks. These days, a number of companies are in FMCG, startup FMCGs. What has happened is it is the supply chain that's been hit. So we've seen people not being able to produce if they're not able to procure the raw material, or if they have produced, then the products don't reach the shops. Nakul was talking about the mobile inventory not reaching Calcutta or some other place. So we have these kind of issues. So do we think there are certain innovations that are possible in this space? Do you see people working on this particularly?
I think Nakul has a broader supply chain. We have a very finite, defined supply chain based out of Maharashtra. So I'm not sure whether I'm well placed, but I'll share my thoughts again. Nakul can start.
Yeah, no, I think I've seen over multiple times. And when 2008, 2009 happened, a lot of companies innovated, came out of that bubble. During demonetization, a lot of payment companies came out, innovated. So I'm sure, I I don't personally know them, right? But I'm sure there would be companies or smart guys or smart people who are thinking around, hey, what is the opportunity out of this whole scenario, and how can we build a business out of it? Who succeeds or who doesn't succeed you will see in the future. But I'm sure uh, the base is innovation, and every time the ecosystem is affected, it gives opportunity to other people to enter the ecosystem and build something new.
Right. Right. I guess there would be a lot of smart people working on a lot of interesting problems out of the current scenario. But having said that, I mean, these are the times, recessions or the crises are the times where the best of the best companies have been built, and that has been historically true. So
Yeah.
the current companies will obviously be much better, and there would be a new set of problem solvers which will come out from this whole crisis situation.
Just time for one topic that we can talk about: funding for startups now. People who have been in the process of raising money, or people who thought, okay, term sheets exchange, everything will come. They're seeing that investors have said, okay, give it some time. So, have you found people addressing this problem in any manner? Is it saying, okay, from the next round we will offer you a discount, help us, give me some money? How's the response from investors? From your whatever you have heard or seen, can you give some feedback?
I think Mumbai Angels is better place to answer that question because they are a lot of investors there. But I think from my understanding, it's basic economics, right? The public markets are down.
Hmm.
People who have money or typically the limited partners would rather invest in public markets than a risky venture capital market because the opportunity is more that side. So LP would maybe force the VC to not invest in VCs, and there would be maybe a scarcity of capital.
In fact, I wanted to add a point here, Nakul. In fact, we have not so far seen a slowdown in deal flow or subscription to any of the deals that we're trying to raise money for, which is actually initially it was quite surprising for us, but we see that there is still a market for good companies. Yes, the questions have changed in terms of what the investors want to know, what they're asking for. There is more of an emphasis on your cash flow planning, your plans for the 3, 6, 12, 18-month horizon. The documentation that's being asked for is more robust, but we have not really seen any slowdown in terms of deal flow or the interest for the sale. That has still been continuous.
Yeah, so I think that will also depend on what stage of VC it is and what are they investing in. I would see a Series C, B onwards kind of investor being more wary. They would rather wait and watch what's happening, who survives, who
True.
doesn't, and then look at anybody who's looking at the angel seed stage. I don't think they are looking at 6 months down the line kind of roadmap. They're looking at innovative teams and products, and this would be a good time to invest from their behalf because you may get a cheaper deal.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So Shivangi, I think we are done with our time. I think the question time starts.
I'll just pose the questions to you. So maybe we can continue and on the funding aspect since we broached the topic. And if we can look at how this pandemic has impacted the funding space in more details, and will the banks actually be more forthcoming in helping businesses with a positive history, with a history of revenue, cash flow, to survive capital and give them capital without collateral? Do you think that that situation would arise where the financial sector itself would be more supportive of startups who have delivered some performance?
Um, uh, Having been a banker for 33 years, let me tell you, bankers are going to be the most unfriendly people when there's a crisis. It would rather be the NBFCs that would help you. Because I think somehow the whole situation has been built that if there is an NPA, it's like you are hanged immediately. I think bankers have not been able to get out of that particular mindset. Having said that, I think many banks, especially the private banks, they are happy to invest into startups, especially in the fintech space, and they also have specific, definitely have it. And those people are focused on the startup space. They can easily read, almost like the equity investors, what are the chances of survival of this startup. they can figure out the business models and they would be much more open. So if you went to the PSU banks, I'm not certain how many of them have that kind of an approach. I'm sure the larger ones have, not necessarily the smaller ones. NBFCs would obviously be looking for wonderful rating, so they will take the risk and they will lend it to you. I think there is this thing from Citi. Citi has come up with a scheme for lending to startups. However, they have got some thresholds which startups are saying is difficult to pass
Small
in
window.
terms of minimum capital. Yeah, not really directed at the smaller companies. My sense is the new investors, these could be debt investors. Some of the NBFCs also do debt funding. Those are my thoughts. I'm happy if
Uh, I I think there is a certain shortage of supply. There's a large amount of shortage. People will wait and watch. But there are enough people who take contrarian bets. So there are people who are on the right side, on the left side of things, wherein they participate in waves, right? But there are enough solid fundamental private equity funds, smaller private equity funds, ex-partners of private equity funds. They generally take a contrarian bet wherein a fashion doesn't also touch them of certain way, and neither the stress. So there are enough people of those sorts. It's just that the search cost of that group is very high. Having said that, there will be supply problem, and I am not sure whether banks or NBFCs would be would be a great fit, because startups are inherently loss making, planning for the next 12, 16 months. So if you're comparing it with a manufacturing business which has an asset, etc., it's a very different business. I mean, we generally are asset light. The SID, we read it in detail. There's a very small window for a startup, even like us, which is profitable, cash flow positive, raised some amount, had amazing 3 financial years. But still, there is a small window, and we believe people should pay for extra, not think about this round, not think about the next round. I mean, in entirety, if the business goes to a very large outcome and very defined outcome, you would end up, if you would be making 100 crores, you would end up making probably 70, 80 crores. It doesn't matter if you have not seen more than 10 crores. So probably it's a short selling scenario. Sell it. At the end of the day, you will recover it when the time comes. That's our.
I think there's also this problem of suppliers really releasing money. You have debtors that are stuck up for months and months, though the guidelines exist that MSME dues must be paid quickly. Today, companies are openly going out and saying, "I'm sorry, this is force majeure situation. I'll not be able to, pay." So you have those situations.
Correct.
So I think this will resolve slowly.
Yep.
Yeah, Shivangi, any other question for us?
So actually, another question that comes up is discussing the other side of capital. If we look at the human capital aspect of it, while we have discussed in this panel that maybe pay cuts would be one of the ways to go if one doesn't want to take the hard decision of letting go of current employees, how does one, as a startup founder or as a business owner, then handle the issue of productivity? Because there seems to be a clear productivity versus pay matrix. So how does one ensure that the productivity is 100% despite the fact that the earnings might be depressed for some time?
Yeah, I let them handle. I can only give a parallel from what happens in a work from home situation. People work longer hours. It's almost like work expands to fill the time that is available. But I think some productivity drop is inevitable, at least in the shorter term, because it needs to set in and so on and so forth. And also some of the functions are almost becoming maintenance functions because there may not be real sale. But I'll let Nakul and possibly Karun answer this.
I think the biggest problem as entrepreneurs we have is we seek control, and when in a work from home situation we don't get it, and we just have to live with it. I have no way of figuring it out that if my teams are giving 100% productivity, or are they 80%, or they are 110%. My tech right now claims that they're doing at 200%.
Wow.
But I still don't see products coming out before the release time. So I don't believe so, right? um, I'm using my other sales teams and ops team for data scraping work. Uh, Soft skill training, those kind of things. I'm using them for social media creation and everything. But that's not their role. Their role was to either pick up inventory, sell inventory, and so I'm just trying to make a fool of myself and trying to think they're productive. But that's what we are in the situation, and there's nothing really I can do to change that.
Arun,
Right.
what take on it?
I think when you say 100% productive, I mean, you're talking about a certain benchmark, and reaching that benchmark creates a 100% mark, right? Obviously, in a work from home scenario, we have revised that benchmark. So probably we might be 100% of certain number. But that number is nowhere close to our office hours or in office productivity. I mean, imagine a scenario where people are waking up, making food, taking care of jhadu pocha, and then working and then going back to doing things all on their own. Certainly, there will be a productivity drop, and to a very big measure. But for us, human capital comes at a at a very high level. So we are taking all the measures wherein this productivity doesn't hurt the group as big it sounds, right? So we are not chasing productivity. We are chasing the goals which we have created for April. We have certainly revised a lot of things. We are doing a lot of things which we never could do. Modi ji has given a lot of time to us, which we never had. We were running on a treadmill. Right now, we have a lot of time. We are managing that. But productivity is certainly one thing which we are neither tracking, neither worried about, because for all practical purposes, the working hours are half. Whether you punch in or punch out, at the end of the day, the distraction, the work you need to do for your home maintenance, everything affects it. And we don't want to track a number which is not fair for the entire organization. And at the same time, we are making sure the goals are achieved, and the goals are revised goals for us.
So Tarun, interesting point. I have two examples. One is a Mumbai Angels portfolio company, another is not. Both companies determined that they will prepone their product rollout. So they said, okay, we cannot do other stuff. We are optimistic that this will pass. So we will use the tech teams and tell them, you don't need to do the maintenance job now. Roll out the products quicker. Two companies. And so I would think that is productivity for the company. So
Yes.
I think a smaller team you may not measure, but for the company, if some goals are met, I suppose that is good.
That is 100%.
I think that's the point Tarun makes.
Right.
Yeah. What else?
So we are running
Shivangi?
out of time. If you can just quickly, if you have some advice to give the startup founders who have logged in on the topic for today, then we can quickly do that and close the session.
Yeah, good. I think thanks to Tarun and Nakul, I think this has been wonderful. I think really good ideas coming in from the practical world, I would say, and born out of years of actually being there. Few things specifically, Shivangi, is about what is it that a startup should do as a good practice. I think that establishes you in a strong situation to be able to take a few knocks on your chin. You've been pushing that question, so let me answer it. I think the point is, how do you manage your expenses is very important. How much of visibility do you have in terms of your receivables? I'm sure a larger company has dedicated finance people to look at things, but a number of startups are actually in the situation that they go to a chartered accountant. वही जो है अपना बैलेंस शीट निकालता है और वही अपना monthly accounts डालता है tally में से निकाल के. So the promoter is after sales. He's running to get some sales. He's trying to get some relationship going. He's not really looking at what is happening in terms of the recoveries from the sales that have been made. So I have seen cases where in companies there are receivables, but those receivables not come for a length of time. It's not as if you will say, okay, my total receivables divided by my sales is okay 3 months worth or something like that. इस तरह का benchmark तो you can't have. You are the promoter, you are the owner. A lender might have that benchmark. A promoter owner should know who is paying, who is not paying, because there could be reasons why someone does not pay. It may be because there are issues with the product delivery. So I think having sense of the receipt of income, the receivables, the expenses, and look for running a tight ship at all times. These are important. And as we talked a little while ago, how do you plan for the cash flow? You know, the burn rate and the runway that you have. At Mumbai Angels, many times we've discussed this. If you have not planned for a capital raise with enough time in hand, you get into a crunch time. So you need to really plan for it well in advance and keep the thing oiled at all times that you are able to raise the money. From my perspective, I think these are the do's and don'ts for people. And I will add this last part that now a lot of companies would have figured out innovative ways of doing things. It might be saying, okay, this product doesn't sell, so can I do something else? So don't forget those ways. You have become innovative in this process, because in crisis, people become innovative. People sort of start thinking better and differently. That should stay with the enterprise. And try to see what is the important thing for you. Maybe it's also the time to look at your strategy. Don't waste your time now, because I think as Nakul was saying, boss, jo hai abhi kya karoge? Sit down and think and look at what is your product, how well are you doing in the marketplace, can you look at some other new ways of doing things, maybe you have to do something on this strategy. Those are my points. I would ask Nakul and Tarun to add some points. Yeah. Yeah.
Nakul, you're on mute. If you can unmute your microphone.
I think Sridhar summed it up pretty well. I'm just saying that, hey, guys, everything it's a very unique event, and there is nothing which we can do or say for you which will help you through this. But what I'm trying to say is that make sure that you know what your strengths are, what your business require, and do what's best for that. And it could be a very difficult decision in the short term, but you have to look at 1 year down the line, not 3 months down the line. So that's just it.
Tarun, what about you?
Right. I guess both the amazing folks have kind of covered everything. Just to sum it up, I guess I'm a big fan of Rocky movie series. There's a dialogue. It ain't about how hard you hit. It is about how hard you can get hit and still keep moving. And Corona or COVID effect is probably the knockout punch you would receive in that ring. I think if you can survive that, you would be the biggest champion of that ring. So just wait there, hold on, survive. Things will be better off faster than you can imagine.
Right. So that brings us to the end of this session. On behalf of MA Network, I would like to thank Sridhar, Varun, and Tarun for participating, and being panelists and lending their time and expertise. I would also like to thank the audience for being actively involved by joining in and sending your questions. I know we have not been able to take all the questions in this session, but please be assured that we are maintaining a bank of questions and we will answer it in subsequent sessions of Reboot. So I request all of you to sign in for the next session. I also thank our members for their constant support and the team at the back for curating this session. The next session of MA Reboot, Navigating the New Normal, is on financial management during lockdown. It is on 20th April at 3:30 p.m. We hope to see all of you there again. Have a good evening. Bye.
Thanks, Nakul, Tarun, and Shivangi. Great.
Guys,
Thank
bye.
you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Yeah.